Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. We are going to talk through how to articulate who you are with positioning and SEO today. Quick sound check. We've got Trevor Lucking and Derek Turner on the call today, as well as myself. I'm Kathy Mrozek. I'm the owner and principal at Windmill. Trevor, do we have sound? Is everything coming through?
Yep, all systems go.
Excellent.
Check.
And that's Derek there too. So today, here's our agenda. We are going to go over just some quick introductions. The bulk of the content is really about our topic of articulating who you are with positioning and SEO. We have some real examples we'll look at of how that's working on real live websites, a few other further training resources, and Q&A. And most of you are likely familiar with Windmill, but we are a marketing firm that focuses on websites and digital marketing for B2B technical and industrial companies. And I am Kathy Mrozek. I'm the owner and president here at Windmill. We have helped marketers on small teams just like you achieve more successful outcomes from their websites and digital marketing for over 15 years now. And within our focus of B2B industrial and technical companies, we find small marketing teams that are pulled in many different directions. They're trying to catch up to quickly evolving modern marketing strategies and tactics. And we see ourselves as your guide toward moving along on that trajectory. Some of the things that most of our clients have in common are they are in complex products and services. They're not just super easy to buy widgets. They are marketing to niche audiences. There are very often multiple personas in the buying cycle. They're long sales cycles. And almost everyone is somewhere on the trajectory from transitioning from traditional selling to really making use of modern digital marketing. And there's so much room for everyone to move along on that trajectory. Most of the people that we help are struggling with one or more of these things: how to fix a website that isn't really bringing in leads at all. They're just relying solely on their Salesforce for bringing in leads. Marketing isn't doing its job. Or on the flip side, sometimes people are getting an overabundance of really low quality leads from marketing that then sales won't take seriously because because they're mostly junk, they're unqualified, or someone has to spend so much time sifting through them all that it's not really worth the effort. Or sometimes are just a really neglected aging website that no longer reflects the company's positioning, the quality of their offerings, isn't attracting the right people. We put together this webinar series, and there's also a course that goes along deeper into these topics because we see an opportunity to empower the marketers that we work with to be more on the strategy side. We bring that to the engagements that we work with our clients on, but you can be empowered to lead more of that strategy because you are an expert in your business and what your business needs, and having some more tools in the toolbox to lead the strategy can just help everything work that much better. So here we are this is webinar 3 of this series, which is all about articulating who you are with positioning and SEO. But the ones below that will be coming up. Define the needs and goals, know your audience. Those are past webinars, and those are still available on our website under the resource section. So to get into today's content, this is really all about who you are to your customers, to your best customers. Foundationally, a good website really combines what the user is looking for and what you need to get in front of them to make the sale. Another way to think about it is the language that will engage website visitors and clearly communicate who you are, in combination with the language that your best customers will use to search to find a solution like you and find your website in the first place. And that's really what we're talking about today. Positioning, once people are there, communicating who it is that you are, how you can help people, why they should care. And SEO, that's the language that attracts people in that search process online. And the two need to go hand in hand. So the bullet points that we're going to look at today are how to clearly outline what you do, who it's for, why people should care. In order to do that, you need to take the step of identifying your critical services and products and revenue drivers. We'll walk through how to draft a positioning a draft positioning statement. There's kind of a nice formula that we'll go through. And then the positioning statement is meant to be really short. So you can also clarify and kind of expand on that with a reassurance statement as well. And then we'll also look at how to take the initial steps toward identifying some primary SEO keywords. And those SEO keywords in your positioning statement need to work together for this whole system to really do its job. So again, positioning, the elements of this are clearly outlining what you do, who it's for, and why people should care. And you want this positioning statement to be really the headline on any website and on most of your marketing, really. It needs to be written so that it resonates with your key audience. So think of your ideal customer profile, the personas, the people who are researching a solution like you. It should be language that makes sense to them, that they would use in their daily life. It doesn't need to be layman's terms, because very often the people researching a solution like you they're a technical audience. They know the lingo, and having that technical language is going to help them feel like, yeah, I'm in the right place because I know these words, I understand them, and it will help someone who isn't your audience see that it's not for them. A positioning statement should really focus on being clear, not clever. This isn't the spot for your most creative writing exercise. It's not coming up with a catchy ad slogan or campaign headline. It can be kind of boring writing work in a way because you're not doing that, but it's actually, it can be difficult to distill your words down to make it super clear. It shouldn't be exciting. It should be extremely clear, straightforward, not make people think too hard. It should balance the specific and the broad, and you want it to be specific enough that people see, oh, this is for me. This is exactly what I'm looking for. But very often a company is going to be selling more than one product or service, more than one individual type of item. So you want it to be talking about the category that you serve. It needs to hint at some differentiation, and you should be able to say it out loud without stumbling. Once you've put it through, you want to make sure that you're not overly SEOing it so it looks like it was built for Google's robots. You want it to make sense to humans as well. So to look at an example of that, here's our website and the positioning statement that we have on our homepage. And there are a lot of different ways to do this, but ours is just extremely simple. It's that part that's circled in yellow there: industrial web design and B2B digital marketing. It's short, it's to the point, it focuses on what we do. We get some who it's for and how it's different in there just by nature of the focus on industrial web design and B2B. So it's for people in B2B and industrial companies. And how it's different in our case, that specialization is a differentiation between ourselves and other marketing firms that maybe don't have that specialization. Now, you can't say it all in that many words. So then a reassurance statement is a chance to have like one or two sentences. It's a little bit longer. It fills in the gaps. It provides more detail on who it's for, more differentiators, and then more on the benefits of working with you. And then if we look at where's the SEO in this, the primary keywords that are built into this positioning statement are industrial web design and then also B2B digital marketing. So those are really comprised in our positioning statement. In a lot of other examples, there are more words beyond just those SEO keywords, but they do need to be featured prominently in there. So here are some examples of good positioning statements. Again, they need to be short, they need to be clear. There can be some jargon and industry terminology, as long as it's industry terminology that your best prospects are going to understand and resonate with. Short and sweet, that one on the top is as long as you'd really want to go. And then for examples, it's easy to find examples of these online. It's so often you'll see a slider on a website homepage that is maybe promoting products, or you'll see these kind of slogans that are really about features or benefits, or how we want to differentiate the company: safe, reliable, fast. That's great that you're safe, reliable, and fast, but it doesn't tell anyone what you do, what is the product or service that you offer. And that's what you want to be the headline when someone comes to your homepage for the first time. You assume that they have not been there before. If they have been there before, they're going to go straight into the navigation and get to where they want to go. But your homepage is really for people who don't know you well yet. And you want it to be as simple as possible for them to understand: here's what we do, here's who it's for, and this is why you should care. And that's what gets them to digest more of your homepage, more of your website. It's an interesting exercise to go look at your competition. Look at the top 3 to 5 competitors, suppliers, similar businesses, and look at their positioning statements. And to kind of train your eye on what you see, look at them and evaluate, like, are they clear? Are they too vague? Are they too long? Or are they missing? Are they still in that spot where they have that homepage slider that rotates through a whole bunch of different messages that nobody really is spending enough time on to digest well? So in order to take the steps to drafting your positioning statement, now that we've talked a little bit about what is a positioning statement, the first thing you're going to do is really get clear on the most critical services, products, and revenue drivers. You don't want your positioning statement to be a laundry list of all the products and services that you offer. You want to think about what is your company known for? What products and services are bringing in the most revenue? Where is the most growth potential? And if possible, is there a category of service that can really be kind of the hallmark and the language that you would put on the homepage? A lot of this starts with a conversation with sales and leadership. You've probably done some of this work if you've dug into your ideal customer profiles and evaluated persona-wise what products and services are used by your best customers. But an example of this could be, in our case, web design for us. It includes a variety of other kind of satellite services. It includes user experience design, visual design, web development, the actual coding. It assumes hosting. A lot of people kind of group all of those things under the umbrella of web design. And we could be saying web design, web development, web hosting, all those things, but it gets too long. And the longer you get, the less likely someone is to actually read it. And most of our clients understand that web design means all of those other things. And you can always use space further down on your homepage to get into that more granular listing of kind of the sub-services that would go under what you would call your hallmark service or services. So by way of example, here are those example positioning statements that we looked at a second ago. I'm going to go through in the next few slides just highlighting the services and how those come into play. And a lot of the content of these positioning statements would be services and keywords in combination. So you can see in green as I go through these where the services are. And the other language is really kind of, couching those service terms, bringing in differentiators and things that help make those service terms more specific. So to start drafting a positioning statement, again, the job of the positioning statement is it needs to be shorthand. It needs to be a skimmable reassurance that the prospect's in the right place. Yes, this company offers what I'm looking for. It should be clear enough that someone who's not really a great fit will read that positioning statement and realize that maybe they're not in the right place and go elsewhere instead of, being confused, possibly filling out a contact form and just adding more noise to your lead generation efforts. It needs to provide a broad overview statement of what you do and what the prospect gets from working with you. The core components: who you serve, what you do, what's unique about working with you. And think back to your ideal customer profile, those products and services. And, it's sometimes helpful to have just like a brainstorm list of differentiators to prime yourself for it. You're not going to get everything into one sentence. a very simple method, a formula, and you'll go through a few iterations of this, but it should just start with a very simple, we do blank for blank. At their core, all positioning statements are starting from this. So, for our positioning statement, it could be, we do web design and digital marketing for B2B and industrial companies. And we shortened that to just say industrial web design and B2B digital marketing with, you infer the we do part. But this is where we started with ours. This is a great place for anyone to start. So start with that formula. We do blank for blank. Then add in a differentiator. What makes how you do it differently? How do you do it? Is there a different descriptive verb that you could replace for the do? And start coming up with a whole bunch of permutations of that. Look at them with other people on your team to don't worry about, oh, does this sound right? Is this catchy? Just focus on the content of it to start. And then it's also helpful once you have a few draft positioning statements to go back and benchmark it against the competition again. Is it the same or similar to your top competitors? Is there anything that would need to change to further differentiate you against your competitors? And go back and make changes. And this is something that even if you are working with a writer, it's incredibly helpful for you to be kind of driving the direction of this, because they will not know your company as well as you do. So if you can start with, here's the meaning of this positioning statement. I mean, in many cases, that's enough for your homepage. But if you want somebody else to help you kind of craft the final language, you want to be able to start with, here's what we're trying to convey in this positioning statement. Let's look at some different ways of saying it. And then once you have your positioning statement, at least in draft form, you want to look at how to clarify that with the reassurance statement. Positioning statement is really short. It can't say it all because it needs to be very, very short. But this is a chance for a longer 1 or 2 sentences that give you more detail, more reassurance. It can go into more about what the customer gets from working with you. It can imply expertise or quality. Further differentiation within your discipline and market. And if you have multiple verticals or audiences or industries that you serve, the reassurance statement, it can change and shift from audience to audience. You want your positioning statement to be constant. That's kind of the rudder that is steering everything, but you can have a different variety of reassurance for different products or services, even depending upon what is most important to the people who are going to be looking at that area of your business. So helpful tips to come up with your reassurance statement. Imagine that a prospect is brand new to you. You've just told them your positioning statement verbally, and they want to learn more. Tell me more. If you were in a 30-second elevator ride, this is kind of like that elevator pitch. If you were stuck in an elevator with them for 30 seconds, that was how much time you had. What would you tell them? Think about what problems you solve. What is the solution? What challenges are people running into when they work with you? What is the reward? What do they get out of working with you? What's the big benefit beyond just delivering the product, but how does it improve their lives, their careers, their companies? And here are some examples of reassurance statements that would go with those positioning statements that we looked at previously. We develop and manufacture high-performance elastomer and thermoplastic components and assemblies for medical device, transportation, and food, beverage, and water industries. These can be a mouthful, but that's okay. Sometimes they can be more succinct, but this is a spot to get the detail in so that if someone read your positioning statement, they want to know more, they can dive further into the detail. Here are a couple of examples of industry-specific reassurance statements that we have on our website. So within industrial B2B technical companies, we have a few different industry groupings that we talk about on our website. For industrial automation and manufacturing companies, we have this set of language. We help manufacturing and industrial companies engage technical buyers and senior leaders while positioning you as a leading supplier. The result, you'll stand apart from the competition, generate more quality leads, and close more business. And then we have a couple of other, similar, but just slightly different versions for the grouping of engineering, technical consulting, and B2B services. Another flavor of that for our life science, medical, biotech, and medical device sector. So that's a place where you can get a little more creative, think more specifically about what the people in those industries and those verticals or applications from those service lines, like what do they specifically get out of working with you, and saying that in 1 or 2 sentences. And then identifying primary SEO keywords is the other side of this. So we've thought about positioning thus far in terms of how to communicate what you do, why it's important, and why someone should care once they get to your website. That positioning statement holds a really, really prominent place on your homepage, and a really prominent place that is important for the SEO value of your website too. There's always kind of a dance going back and forth between getting the language right so that it resonates, and getting the language right so that it brings in the right people, so that it captures the right people in search. You need the two to go hand in hand in a world where, where search is important to getting people to your website, which it is, and it will become even more important into the future. So identifying primary keywords it really goes hand in hand with identifying your positioning. Who are your customers, your primary differentiators, what do you offer to them, what benefits do they get from working with you, and what are they calling the solution for your services as a whole. And when you think about this, what do they call the solution? It's likely what would they type into Google if they were looking for someone like you? And then you would want to see that language also represented on your website as well. When you think about what are they calling the solution, intent and specificity is more important than volume. A lot of people will worry about getting the most traffic to their website possible. And while you do want traffic to your website, you want it to be the right traffic. Getting more people to your website will not help if they are the wrong people. If they are not the people who will become your future best customers, then having them on your website just kind of adds noise to the whole thing. So a way of thinking about intent over volume is, intent to buy are these words that they're typing into search, showing that they are researching with the intent of finding a vendor or solution, or are they just looking for reference material? And sometimes those people are higher on the sales funnel as well, and would be good traffic. They're just not ready to talk to sales. The other way is specificity. So for example, a general term like polycarbonate lens. I mean, that sounds pretty specific, but when you think about it in the broad spectrum, it might have a bunch of volume, but it could also bring in consumers who are looking for a replacement lens. Whereas extruded polycarbonate lens, that's something that would suggest a manufacturer looking for a B2B vendor. So you'll want to think through how you can put, additional terms around a general term to make it very specific to your audience. And also thinking of those specific terms, they're going to have lower volume, but several lower volume, really specific keywords, they will combine to bring in more of the audience that you want, who are, really looking for exactly what you offer to people. So thinking about what are your best customers calling the solution for your services as a whole, you want to start by brainstorming an initial list. And you don't have to get too worried about intent. Just start with a list of words that you think people might be searching for on Google that you would like to show up for. It helps to uncover intent and, is it a good match? It helps to actually Google those keywords yourself and see what comes up in the results. If you're getting a lot of people that you would see as the competitors, then they might be a good fit. If it's totally unrelated, way too broad consumer queries, then maybe they don't belong on your list. It's also helpful to look at competitor websites. And now that you know kind of how a positioning statement is composed, look at the headlines on their website. Look at what keywords appear prominently. Look at what's in their title tag if you know how to get into the code. There are other tools like SpyFu SEO competitor research tools that will allow you to dig a little bit deeper into what keywords are my competitors ranking for. A tool like Google Keyword Planner, which is free to sign up for an account, or SEMrush, that's a paid tool that a lot of agencies like us use. They will give you a really good idea of the relative volume and difficulty for keywords once you've come up with kind of a brainstorm list. So the process really is to brainstorm, think about what your best customers are searching on, and then once you've got that, start to narrow that down with a little bit of research. So pulling open something like Google Keyword Planner will give you data like what we're looking at on this screen right now, where you've got a list of keywords, you have volume, meaning how many times are these keywords being searched on an average month, and then difficulty, which is really kind of like how many people are trying to rank for these keywords. How hard would it be to show up on page 1 for this keyword, relatively speaking? A lower number in difficulty means it's less difficult to rank for that keyword. And then the CPC column, that shows an average cost per click if you were to be bidding on that keyword in Google paid ads. And this is a tool that is kind of within the Google paid ads ecosystem, but you can use it to research terms, whether or not you're using paid ads or not as part of your marketing. So you want to keep in mind that for the very specific terms, which are probably going to bring in the most specific traffic for your niche audience, the volume is often going to be lower, but the intent is going to be higher. And the likelihood of them becoming an engaged visitor to your website is higher as well. A useful tool to try to, starting from a list like we just looked at, to narrow down which ones are the most important keywords can be to put things in a quadrant. So up on the top, we have high intent to buy, and alternatively, something that suggests someone's just researching. They're interested in the topic, but they have a low intent to buy. And then on the left, the two differentiators would be, is it specific enough to be clearly in my target? Or is it too broad? It could be a consumer-driven query. It's not really a clear match for what we most want to be known for or most want to promote. So to start, by way of example, putting some of these keywords into that quadrant, for us, if we had like the terms web design software marketing, which is very, very broad. Someone's typing marketing into Google, they could be looking for any number of things. They may or may not be looking for marketing help. We have no idea if they're an industrial or B2B company looking for marketing help. Digital marketing tips, that shows someone's researching. They probably don't have an intent to hire someone for this type of engagement. They're just looking for tips that they can find on their own. Website development classes, that doesn't necessarily suggest that they are looking for what we offer exactly. And then there are these two other areas of the quadrant. If we look at the upper right, cost of web design, how expensive is digital marketing, content strategy, UX audits. Those are research terms that are kind of specific, and they might be really good terms to write like a resource article on. It might be good content to have on our website, but it's not our primary keyword focus because it doesn't show that someone is actively looking for a solution. It doesn't show that they're necessarily clearly in our target. And then on the lower left, these are, they're close, but again, they're just kind of too broad. Like web design could mean a lot of different things to different people. Digital marketing services, there are so many agencies in the world offering digital marketing services. Someone typing that in doesn't tell us whether they are in our target or niche, or whether it'll be a really great match. So the terms that we would focus on would be ones that show high intent to buy and are specific enough to clearly be in target. So industrial web design, industrial website design, B2B digital marketing, industrial B2B marketing. These are really, they're longer, they have high intent. And you'll notice that very often these high intent specific keywords do contain the shorter, more general keywords too. So it's not like you're cutting those out entirely. Like if you look at the first one, industrial web design, it includes web design, which is a very high volume keyword that isn't specific enough for us to go after that as our main target, but industrial web design is. And you'll probably find patterns like that in your own keywords as you look through them. So to put it all together, you want to think through positioning statement, draft a reassurance statement as well, do some SEO research, brainstorming, and then kind of researching it against traffic numbers, putting it into those quadrants. Once you've come up with what you think are your candidates for your number one keyword, does it fit within your positioning statement? Some of this is just like a gut check. Like, would you want to say that? Would you want to broadcast that on your homepage as this is the number one thing that we offer? And how does it work in that language? You might need to tweak the language a little bit and work on a revised statement that can get that primary keyword in. If you've landed on like, this is our primary keyword, but it just doesn't sound right in the positioning statement, that probably means maybe the keyword is off, the positioning statement is off. Go back to your list and start to think through all those things. And, you know, of course, it's advantageous to be doing this work with the help of an SEO specialist who has used these tools, who has more knowledge of the patterns. But a lot of this stuff you can dig in and learn and guide on your own as well. And also remember that SEO and positioning are part of a system. Throughout your homepage and throughout your website, there are many places to insert keywords and SEO value, including more than just that positioning statement headline, which we also call the H1. That's what it's called in the code of your website. There's also the meta title, the description, alt image tags, all the headlines on your website. Those all go into kind of building that SEO system and also, you know, communicating to the viewer what is our website about. So a few real life examples. We looked at this one already. This is our website. You can see the two primary keywords, the short positioning statement, which is in that larger, bolder type. That's the H1 on our homepage. That smaller sentence or two below is the reassurance statement. Here's an example. The leader in flow measurement solutions is the positioning statement. They do get a little bit of content in there, you know, by saying they're the leader, and flow measurement solutions is the keyword that they're going after. There's also a smaller sentence below that says primary flow signal offers world-class differential pressure flow elements that ensure the highest quality, accuracy, and reliability for liquid, gas, and steam applications. So it gives people more of a full picture about what this company is about. Another example, master distributor, stainless steel, aluminum tube, and pipe. Here the keywords are stainless steel tubing and aluminum tubing master distributor. This one is, the language is built a little bit differently, but it works for this instance. Here, the keywords are custom machine automation and automation consulting services. And this is, again, kind of like that simplest formula of keyword and keyword. And in some cases, that says it all. That says enough for the positioning statement. Below that, they have a very unique process that they want to promote that they feel is a big differentiator for them. So their reassurance statement is learn how you can benefit from the Summit Agile process and partnership approach. So as you look at other websites around the web, you know, whether they're competitors, suppliers, or totally unrelated businesses, you will start to see in the websites that are doing it well anyway, you'll start to see these patterns and you can become a little bit more, you'll just have a greater knowledge base for how to craft your own positioning, how SEO comes into play, and how that reassurance statement can help bring things together as well. And when you land on your positioning statement too, don't think of it as just something that's for the web. It should really be something that is consistent language that you can use everywhere. It should show up in printed materials and brochures. It should create a consistent picture for anyone who is new to your company. On our website, we have an article that digs into this topic as well. So if you go to our website, do a search for Articulate Who You Are, you'll find an article that's on the same topic in addition to other white papers. There's a place to sign up for future webinars, and you'll see case studies of people that we've helped in the past. We are always open to talking to new people in our niche about projects, ongoing engagements, and we'd also love to hear your feedback about this webinar. You can find our contact form on the website and send us your thoughts. What did you enjoy in this webinar? What would you like to see in future webinars? For further training, we also have an on-demand course on our website that you can sign up for. There's a module that mirrors what we talked about today and goes a little bit deeper. It's part of a larger 8-module on-demand virtual course that follows the topics in this webinar series. And it includes live office hours, as well as on-demand training that you can move through at your own pace. And here's everything that it includes. It includes a lot of kind of shortcut tools, tricks and tips that will help you get further along with your marketing than if you're trying to pull all these resources together on your own. And then, of course, the next webinar in this series is going to be about guiding visitors to critical actions. It's really about how does the website work as a marketing tool to generate marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads. So that's the most important job of your website, is to get people to the spot where they're in your marketing, you have contact information for them, and or they've raised their hand and they're ready to talk to sales. So that brings us to Q&A. Do we have questions from the participants today?
We do. Looks like we have 3 questions over here. The first one's for Kathy. And it is, my company serves numerous industries with numerous products and services. How can I get that all into one sentence?
Sure. Yeah. And you don't want to do a laundry list. You don't want your positioning statement to be full of a whole bunch of commas. You want to try to think about what term can you use to bucket or categorize those products and services in a way that people would understand, or sometimes just assume that other products or services are included in that. And one example for us would be like we offer web hosting as kind of part of the whole ecosystem that we offer. Most people assume that comes along with website design and development. We don't say it because we wouldn't sell it as a standalone. It's not our primary thing that we offer to people, but it's kind of an like, yes, and we also offer web hosting. So we don't list it out in our positioning statement. You can find it in some of the deeper service pages though. So look for something that either is an overview, a bucket term, something that comprises a category of products or services, or in some cases, there's just one line of products or services that really is the future direction of the company that you want to promote most heavily. And the other things that you sell can be listed somewhere else, but it's not what you're heavily promoting the most.
Awesome. Looks like these next 2 questions are actually going to be for Derek, who's our SEO specialist on the webinar. Question number 1, why not go after only the biggest volume keywords?
Yes, that's definitely a common question. Obviously you want to reach as many people as possible. So it's natural to be drawn to those keywords. And I would say if you find that those words are accurate, if they lead the precise people to you that you want to reach, then by all means. But it's important to remember the intention behind those searches. So if somebody's searching a word, and Kathy gave good examples of that earlier, I believe it was the lens example. If somebody searches a word that could apply to any number of industries, it could be, if you're a business to business company and it's clearly something that a consumer might look for, like that's going to bring the wrong people, that's going to hurt you. So it's finding the right balance of as much volume as possible, while still making sure that you're as precise as possible, and thinking of the intention behind the search that's taking place and what that intention was. And do you meet that intention? Can you fulfill that intention? If so, capture as much of that audience as possible. But if not, you're better off being more refined in that, in those intentions.
Awesome. And the last question here focuses on competitors. The question is, what if my competitors are doing something different or the same?
Yeah, that's a good point. We talked a little bit about competitors. Certainly competitors is a great starting point, or one of the early places to look as you're trying to figure this out and improve your efforts. It makes sense that if your top competitors are doing something, then there's probably a high likelihood you should be doing that as well. So looking for that, competing on that same playing field is certainly worthwhile. But keep in mind that maybe they're missing the mark as well. A lot of companies are busy running their companies, and even with the best of intentions, they might have missed things. They might have overlooked things. Maybe there's been an emergence of new aspects of the industry that could be captured that they haven't looked at in some time. So using competitors as a point of reference is valuable, and it will probably save you a lot of time. But again, I would go back to, what is the intention behind what they're doing? Does it match the same goals you have? Does it meet your audience? Are there differences? Put yourself in the head of your target audience and think about, who do we really want to work with? What sets them apart from any other possible customer or client? And how can we reach them? And Kathy mentioned earlier, talk to your sales team, talk to the frontline people that are interacting with these customers. What are they asking? What questions do they have? What are they saying? What's the first topic of discussion that comes up in those communications? That's going to tell you what they're thinking. That's going to help guide you towards the right messaging.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Derek. Like, you don't know necessarily whether your competitors are on top of their SEO or not. It's a great place to look,
Correct.
but they might have focused on it years ago and then never touched it since, or maybe they didn't have as much strategy going into it as you're putting into it too. It's a good thing to look at, but your goal is to always to surpass them too.
Certainly. Yeah, and that the way I describe it to people is, first you need to know the race you're in to be able to compete and win that race. Then you need to prepare and train just as an athlete would.
Yeah.
If you're running the 100 meter, it's different than the 400. You need to know that, and you need to prepare for that. And maybe your competitors are all not looking at it with that same clarity, and so they could be missing the mark as well. So yeah, good point.
Yeah, great. Do we have other questions?
I believe that was the last one.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. And yes, we would love to hear from you what you got out of today's webinar, other topics or questions that you might have for future webinars. Fill out the contact form on our website, and we hope to hear from you and see you on future days.